It is rightly said, great leaders don't set out to be leaders. They set out to make a difference. Good evening everyone. We at Bombay Management Association and Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies welcome you all to the Wednesday Wisdom webinar. Here, we discuss the journeys of such leaders who made a lasting difference to the world of management, without whom we'd be a few climbs below where we are today. Let them inspire you to be better at management and at life. Shri Prakash Lal Tandon was India's one of the most influential business leaders in the second half of the 20th century, a pioneer in professional management and an icon of almost every well-established and young managers even today. For a man who was at the very top of the heap in Hindustan Levers, STC and PNB, Prakash took no favors. He lived in a modest Delhi Development Authority flat in Vasant Kunj, drove his Fiat car everywhere, never jumped queues, and was unfailingly courteous to all. He read everything under the sun, and whenever he heard something interesting, out would come the small red leather diary for taking short notes. I need to say something more about this gem of a man. Let us start the story from his childhood. Born in 1911 to a wealthy Punjabi family, Prakash Tandon graduated from Government College, Lahore as a science student, but suddenly shifted to commerce. Then he went to United Kingdom, from where he returned as a qualified chartered accountant in 1937 from the Manchester University. He married a Swedish girl whom he met at Oxford. Now let us understand some of his work ethics. While Prakash Tandon was proud of his Punjabi heritage, he never favored or promoted Punjabis. His closest associates in the Hindustan Lever Ltd were Maurice Zinkin, a Britisher, and R. Ramaswamy, a Tamil Brahmin. His chosen successor was Vasant Rajadhyaksha, a Maharashtrian. He applied this principle to all other organizations that he has headed till the date. 8 years later, he returned to India. In 1937, he joined Hindustan Lever Limited as the first Indian manager recruited by the firm in India. In 1951 he became a director of Hindustan Lever Limited, and in 1961 he became the first Indian chairman of the multinational company. There was a genuine realization in London, and a sense of pride in Bombay that Indians could manage the company. Prakash Tandon made HLL truly Indian not only in name but also in spirit. The day he retired from Hindustan Lever, he arrived at the Back Bay Reclamation head office in the chauffeur-driven company car. After the farewell tea party, Prakash walked down, waved the driver away, and said, "Hum do retire ho chuke hai. Main apni Fiat gaadi mein ghar drive karke jaunga." And that is exactly what he did. What a story, what an example. No fuss, no fanfare. Now we will have a look at one of the fondest memories of Mr. Tandon shared by Mr. Gopalkrishnan.
Hello, and thank you BMA for commemorating some of the doyens of Indian management, and for including me to give a message for Mr. Prakash Lal Tandon. You know, Prakash Tandon was my hero. He was the chairman of the company, Hindustan Lever, when I joined as a young trainee. And obviously I did not get to know him much when he was in Hindustan Lever, but I got to know him much later when I became a director of the company and he was a former chairman. And I found him to be a remarkable person. Fallible, like all human beings, but with great insight and experience. In fact, he inspired me to write 2 books, which I have displayed here. One is called The Made in India Manager, which Mr. Tandon absolutely represented. And the second one is here called A Comma in a Sentence, which I wrote, which is my family history, background, like he wrote his Punjabi century. And no doubt, as I mentioned in the book, his book was an inspiration for me to write A Comma in a Sentence. You could have as well called it the Tamil century, but that would have been copying too much. I'm so delighted that you're commemorating Mr. Tandon, and I wish young people would take the great inspiration from whatever he has stood for and done for management. All the best.
Thank you, Mr. Gopalkrishnan, for sharing the message with our audience. Post his job at Hindustan Levers, Mr. Tandon was made chairman of State Trading Corporation in 1968. Let us hear it from Mr. Latif. He has few noble thoughts which he'd like to share on this platform with all of us.
I'm flattered to have been asked to contribute to the Bajaj Institute of Management Studies work on Prakash Tandon. I was introduced to him by his daughter, Maya, Malhotra, who got to know us after I returned to India in late 66 to begin a career as an economic journalist. I had just joined the Hindustan Times in 68, and Prakash Tandon had just been appointed as chairman of the State Trading Corporation of India. Tandon was one of the early appointments of several outsiders who had been injected into government to bring professional experience to the civil service and Indian management. These included Lavraj Kumar, who came in from Shell, I.G. Patel, and later, of course, Manmohan Singh, Vijay Kelkar, and others. Tandon's appointment was big news. As an economics editor, I would meet him regularly with him, particularly since he was frequently in the news. There were two key attributes of Tandon that attracted my professional and personal interest. On the professional side, he had a clear understanding that he needed to set the standard for similar other appointments from the private sector. He made sure he was seen to be highly client-focused, transparent, accessible, without a trace of arrogance. His office at the SDC building was about the most unusual office that I've seen. No desk, only a few comfortable low-slung chairs. When I asked him about it, he said that desks created barriers between the person sitting behind it and his client or visitor. Another aspect of setting standards for him was the simplicity in his personal life. He was always very simply, elegantly dressed, lived in a modest TTA apartment, drove a Fiat car himself, shunned all the perks that government jobs offered. Not surprisingly, the press attention he got and his personal integrity were deeply threatening to the minister in charge, and Tandon had a short term at STC. Those who had brought him in managed to move him to the then recently nationalized Punjab National Bank. His interests, however, went beyond his day job. He was deeply interested in both traditional and modern Indian art and culture. He shared my wife Shaida's and my interest in modern art and Anglo-Indian art. Like us, he was an Anglophile. Although he belonged to my parents' generation, that did not prevent him from adopting us in the half a decade we both lived in Delhi. He would really regularly invite us to dinner, came to our house sometimes, and he would advise us on our art collecting. Shaida once complained to him that she couldn't afford the Hussein that she really liked the other day. And so he said, "You should have bought it," because he says, "You will always regret it." And then he began to recount his own experience when he'd gone in Bombay to an exhibition of Amrita Sherial's work. The painting cost 250 rupees, and he couldn't afford it. He felt his salary was then 300 rupees. He felt this was the biggest mistake that he'd made in his life. On another occasion, he liked a British watercolor that we had of the port of Cochin and said he was planning to use it for a cover of a State Trading Corporation annual report. I don't know whether he did or not. He was one of a dozen or so people who I regard as father figures in my life. He profoundly influenced my thinking and throughout my career. He was a great Indian, and I'm delighted to be able to support this. Thank you very much.
We thank Mr. Latif for sharing his wonderful memories of Mr. Tandon. Because of his high ratings in the government circles, the government made him the chairman cum managing director of the first Swadeshi Bank, today known as the Punjab National Bank. This was perhaps the first instance when a non-banker and industry outsider was brought in as the CMD of a bank. The present logo and fonts of name boards were among many changes brought out by him. Major branch expansions took place in those years and PNB became a truly all-India institution under his leadership. Let us hear from Mr. Das and his thoughts about Mr. Tandon.
My first meeting with Prakash Tandon was an act of great generosity on his part. I was 22, a lowly, unknown product manager in an unknown company called Richardson Hindustan, which made Vicks products. And he was the famous chairman of the hallowed Grand Levers. He'd written the wonderful Punjabi Century. Since I had pretensions of becoming a weekend writer, I sent him a copy of my first manuscript, a play called Larin Saab. To my surprise, he asked me to come and see him, and we talked about it and other things, and I learned much wisdom from him, including the fact that we were both professional managers, he said. We're not owners. The owners think of us as mercenaries, as fighting on their behalf, not on the battlefield, but in the marketplace, to win another war for market share. They can hire us, they can fire us. But professional managers have a different perception of themselves. They are Kshatriyas, while owners are Vaishyas. Thus, we are a step higher in the social hierarchy.
I'd like to thank Mr. Das for taking us across these beautiful memories of Mr. Tandon. Prakash Lal Tandon was impressed by the advanced management program at Harvard Business School and became closely associated with Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad in the 1960s. He was appointed as one of the Board of Governors in 1962 and was the board's chairperson from 1964 to 1969. Prakash Tandon played a key role in setting up of Indian Institute of Management in Ahmedabad. Moving forward, let us hear it out from his son, Manu Tandon, sharing memories of his father.
It's a source of pride for me and my siblings that 18 years after my father passed away, he is remembered and reflected upon by the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management. His corporate career spanning several decades with Hindustan Unilever and then onto the public sector as chairman of State Trading Corporation, the Punjab National Bank, NCAR, was indeed remarkable and is narrated in his books published under the title Punjabi Saga. I too pursued a corporate career as a chartered accountant and then on to a multinational. I had the advantage of an enviable mentor engaging in long conversations on our respective careers, mine the present and his the past. I would just like to highlight a few takeaways, albeit for my modest size of company I was engaged with. PLT, as he was known in Levers, once said to a bunch of newly inducted trainees, "Young men, you have ears twice the size of your mouth, and you have 2 ears, so you would do well to listen 4 times as much as you speak." When sizing up a potential candidate for a senior position, and once he was satisfied with his professional and managerial competence, he sought to find out whether he possessed the values expected from an HLL manager. He believed values were something systemic, either you had it or you didn't. A balance between work and personal life was important to PLT, for himself and his colleagues. However, for him, leisure was not to be wasted, but should be spent productively for exercising the mind, body, and learning. Vacations were spent in the Himalayas, walking, trekking in the pristine environment, and interacting with common rural folk. He wrote his finest book, The Punjabi Century, during vacations, often sitting by a Petromax lantern in a remote forest rest house in Kashmir. In winter, vacations involved soaking in the historical heritage of India. Learning for him was a continuous process, and vacations were no exception. PLT strongly believed that a key ingredient to corporate success was a fair balance between the obligations to employees, customers, suppliers, shareholders, and the society at large, and of course the government. The enormous amount of time he devoted to his extracurricular representations on PSU boards, teaching assignments, and setting up the Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad was prima facie at the cost to HLL in terms of time, but it certainly enhanced the reputation of the company at the same time. This was perhaps an early example of corporate social responsibility. Today, giving back to society at large is not just charity, but makes good business sense. When PLT was about to leave the comfort zone of levers to take up a position of chairman STC, he called on G.D. Birla, who was horrified and said, "Are you mad?" Was PLT able to make a difference to this huge monopolistic trading organization owned by the government and run like a government department? To a point, perhaps yes, but ultimately he abruptly quit rather than doing the bidding of his political masters. Today, STC is anyway irrelevant, and HUL is more than thriving because it believed in the highest standards of professional management.
I would like to thank Mr. Manu Tandon for sharing his thoughts about Mr. Tandon with all of us. I must say we are all touched by these memories of Mr. Tandon. Several years later in his 90s, he lay weak in his bed at his Delhi home, but alert in thoughts and speech. His sons insisted him to move to Pune and stay with them. On the 20th of October, as Unilever announced in London the dismal news about halving its sales growth and its share prices slumped. In an unconnected event, several thousand miles away in Pune, Prakash Tandon closed his innings at the age of 93, a bit short of his Punjabi century, but a glorious life, a well-lived life. What a gem of a person Shri Prakash Lal Tandon was. We feel immense pleasure to let you all know about his contribution to our nation, and now we will look at some of his memories his beloved daughter and granddaughter would like to share with us.
Maya madam, we are very happy to have you, and we are very curious to know something about your father, late P.L. Tandon, whom we are very eager to know at Bombay Management Association in celebrating the Indian managers who made the difference. We are doing this for the students and the young managers to know how the people have stood for Indian values and Indianness in management instead of having relied on the outside philosophies and outside management theories. So in that context, we are eager to know about your father, Mr. P.L. Tandon. You can tell us about him, about your childhood memories with him.
Okay, first of all, he was not a theoretician actually at all, very practical in management, and I think he innately believes that good management is the key to practically everything. I live here in the US, where until this last election, many presidents were elected, and an exception of Obama also, on that they were businessmen. Now, businessmen is, as it's understood, is a person whose only goal is to increase the profits, increase the value for the shareholders. A manager, as he thought it, is someone who looks holistically from the grassroots up, which means, or down, not only the interests of the shareholders, the owners, the big major owners of a company. In the case of government, it's the government, but the employees as well, from up to down.
And he has written also a lot. The Trilogy of Punjab, and then the Indian Managers, and many books he had written. So were you aware as a daughter or in the family that your father is doing some serious writing and he's publishing books?
You know, he just didn't start with funny, there's notions. He had a colleague, a wonderful, brilliant Britisher, a Jewish gentleman, brilliant, from Cambridge University, whose name was Maurice Zinken. His wife was a correspondent for what was in those days called the Manchester Guardian. Today is a wonderful newspaper called The Guardian. And Maurice was brilliant. He was actually ex-ICS, had served in Maharashtra in Dhule or Dhulia, that district. Great. And Maurice had a great admiration for the keen Maharashtrian mind, I have to say. He admired all the talents of India. It's just that we happened to be in Maharashtra and in Bombay. So Maurice Zinken said to him, when Maurice was a great economist and wrote books on the economies of Asia, published by his London publisher, well-known prominent publisher called Chatto and Windus. So Maurice said to, we used to call him Uncle Maurice, he said to my father, Prakash, you should write a book. And he said to my mother, you also should write a book. But like myself, my mother wasn't so ambitious and motivated. She just enjoyed life and went along with everything. He said, he thought to himself, I don't know anybody, and we're talking about the middle 50s. He thought to himself, what a good idea, I'll write a book. In those days, they didn't have writing courses or anything like that. Mahatma Gandhi or Nehru never went to a writer's workshop. They just wrote. And Gandhi was a real grassroots Indian, but wrote very, very well. Even his English writings are very perfect. So he wrote a book, and he took a foolscap legal pad and a pencil and a sharpener and an eraser and started producing a book, his first book. And then in those days, there were people alive who had memories of the 19th century, were born, 80 years earlier, which means towards the end of the 19th century, and had living memories. Today, they call it, what is called, there's a word for it, which the Americans have coined, this tapping people's memories for stories. There's a certain phrase, it doesn't come to me. But he went around to all the old people he knew. Would go on holidays. In America nowadays, people get at the most 1 week's holiday or 2 weeks. If you're really, really senior, you'll get 3 weeks. But in those days, and maybe it still is in India, it is in Europe, 1 month's holiday is owed to you. Even your, maids will get 1 month to go to her village, and you pay for that month. So 1 month's holiday and traveling across India. And wherever we had friends whom we knew, we would stay with them and we would ask them for their memories. They weren't all Punjabis, there were people from everywhere. And our East Indian friends in Bandra also, and Punjab, well, the first book is about Punjab, so mostly Punjabis. He interviewed elderly people and getting their notes and writing notes, copious notes, which he put. So each chapter in the book is organized chapter by chapter. And my mother was a great linguist. She was Swedish, but she spoke and wrote and read fluent French, German, English, Swedish. And so, because she had an MA in philology, so she edited the books. His lovely secretary, Miss Lele, Mavis Lele, would typed them and retyped them, and it was turned into a finished book, sent to Morris Zinkins, publisher in London, Chatto and Windus, who absolutely did not change a single comma in it. My mother had so ably and perfectly edited it. They dropped a chapter, which was unfortunately because they wanted to put it in a certain price bracket. So they dropped a chapter for the sake of that. And he lost the chapter. It was on how horoscopes influence the choice of, marriages for your
Partners,
boys
yeah.
or girls. It was common in India.
Ma'am, we have also heard that that he had a Ford Fiat car, and he never kept a driver. So he was the person who used to drive his own car, despite of many people telling him that, sir, please keep a driver for you. You're a big
Well,
man now. So what is the story
that is
behind that?
true. He didn't keep a driver, and then he bought a Maruti, first a Fiat, then he got a Maruti, two Marutis, one after the other, or together maybe. The Fiat got stolen, unfortunately, for parts. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little mixed up. It didn't, but I don't know what happened to the old Fiat. It just died of old age.
We were talking on the life of Prakash sir. So, ma'am, as you are here, I would also like to ask you some questions, because you have seen your grandfather, working, and your mother being shedded under him, working as well as absorbing that values in you. So I would ask you, ma'am, that what values of independence or what values of empowerment did Prakash sir gave it to your mother, and that flowed it to you? So, ma'am, as we all know that he has written a lot of books, and he has also written some Urdu poetries. So, are you fond of those? I mean, have you heard about them, or do you have any memorable, saying of his book that you remember?
Yes, thank you. It's so me, right?
Yes, yes,
Isha?
ma'am.
Yeah, so during this pandemic last year, I was at home and I picked up his book, and books actually, and read all of them again. They were very interesting. And how do I explain this? What I found interesting about the book, like his books, his first two books in particular, was the relationship that he had to develop with as an Indian working in a British company, multinational, Unilever, right?
Nice.
And the kind of line he was walking, and it was on two levels. One was, okay, the British who, were in India till 1947, running the country. That was one aspect of his work life. And the second was just in general, once he became senior and he became, CEO, chairman of Levers India, the whole initiative he did to call it Hindustan Lever, right, to switch it over to that, was very interesting how he had to do that. And in general, how does a subsidiary president of a multinational subsidiary, a big one like HUL, so how do you kind of, as a subsidiary president, kind of manage the relationship with headquarters? I remember reading in the book once he had to just sort of literally get on a plane and fly out to London to discuss, an important idea. I think it was the Indianization and turning it into an Indian company whose shares could be bought by the Indian public. So I found those aspects of his book really interesting to read, the history of that. And, I wasn't going to say this, but Joy, I feel comfortable and I'm just saying it to you. But, I was so close to him and my grandmother. They were my parents, actually, literally.
Wow.
Because I lived with them, as I said, as a child, as a baby, for 8 years, during my college, my working life. I worked for Citibank in Bombay for some years, and I lived with them. And so I was very close to him. And some years after he passed, I had a Diwali party at my house for, my children, families, and all in Canada. And I went, speaking of quotations or sayings, you were asking, I went down to my one part of my house and I was cleaning up after the Diwali party. And I saw on a bookshelf, there was a tiny little pink book lying there. And I opened up the book and it was a book of quotations, different famous sayings. And I wrote it, somebody had written in it, and it had been given to me as a present, and I didn't even remember that I had that book. Inside it said, "Dear Aisha, happy Diwali from, whatever, your grandfather, with love and everything." And it's funny that on Diwali night, I found this book of quotations from him, and he was, he was saying happy Diwali to me in the book. He'd given it to me on a Diwali. So he was always full of these quotations and interesting. He would read other people and tell you about what he had read. Sorry, it's just a memory that was really touched me, right? Because you miss your grandparent after they go,
Very true.
right? And then suddenly, he sends you almost like a message from above.
Ma'am, it's my honor to meet you over a Zoom call today and to understand what happened decades ago, that even today managers have been so inspired, not only in HUL, but throughout the globe. People are even today talking about Prakash sir, and we as young managers also know him. We study about him. So I myself feel so privileged and honored to speak to his family today. So with this note, I would say that JBIMS with the Bombay Management Association thank the daughter Maya Malhotra and her granddaughter Aisha Malhotra to join me on this call and to talk about the life of her grandfather and her father, how so well he has touched upon lives, and even today he's known as the icon for the established and the young managers in the world. So thank you so much for that, ma'am. Really appreciate your efforts to be there.
So much.
This was indeed an overwhelming and heart-touching conversation we have had with Mr. Tandon's daughter, Maya Malhotra, and his granddaughter, Aisha Malhotra. After looking at the life of Shri Prakash Lal Tandon, everyone might be having a question in their mind for sure. How is Mr. Tandon's work ethics relevant even today? Mr. Tandon will be remembered for his innate Indianness, which transformed Hindustan Levers Limited into a truly Indian company, and for his strict financial probity in all his dealings. Truly, he was a great example in corporate management and has been an icon for generations of Indian managers. Before we close, here are few books authored by Mr. Tandon which I'd recommend everyone to read and learn more about him. This initiative was driven by the part-time MBA students at JBIMS Marketing Department. While learning about Mr. Tandon, the students have absorbed various skills ranging from accountability, delegation, patriotism, leadership, planning, and modesty from Mr. Tandon. We believe all of them will continue to practice these skills in their professional endeavors and personal life. We would like to thank everyone who has given their valuable time and support for this wonderful initiative.